Public-Private Partnership Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 10 of 2026.
Other bills still to be considered at committee stage include the National Road Fund Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2036. They also have the Standards Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 53 of 2026, and the Occupational Health and Safety Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 62 of 2026. I'm sure there's some more bills that will be considered at committee stage. Taza.
Yes, indeed. So the other bills that will be considered at committee stage include the Patents and Companies Registration Agency Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 63 of 2026, the Zambia Development Agency Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2026, and we also have the National Heritage Conservation Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 22 of 2026, which is expected to be considered at report stage, and the National Museums Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2026, equally to be considered at report stage. So that's the business that we expect the House to consider this afternoon.
Yes, indeed, and in a short while, at about 14:30, we expect the House to be called to order and business and Madam Speaker to take a chair so that business can indeed continue. In case you've just tuned into Parliament TV, the station that is dedicated to bringing Parliament closer to you, we just want to say that strange enough that yes, indeed, the House is also sitting on Saturday. This is due to the fact that some standing orders were indeed suspended to enable the House sit at times that the House does not normally sit, and such a day is today, Saturday, not forgetting tomorrow, Sunday, the House will sit, and also at different times. You've noticed that this past week the House has been sitting from about 10 hours. So this is due to the suspension of certain standing orders.
Yes, indeed, Muta. And just now we'll excite you with some pictures as members of Parliament get ready, are waiting for resumption of business, which is expected to resume at 14:30 hours. Keep watching Parliament Television.
Yes, indeed. So as you can see, the pictures of the House are just waiting for the House to be called to order. And once the House is called to order, that will signify that business in the House is about to commence. And if you've just tuned to Parliament TV, the station that is dedicated to bring Parliament closer to you, we say thank you very much and we appreciate your viewership.
Honourable members of Parliament, Madam Speaker. Order, honourable members, let's go straight into business. When business was suspended, the House had just concluded the second reading stage of the Electoral Process Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2026, moved by Her Honour the Vice President. Next order.
The Zambia Wildlife Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2026, second reading.
The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honourable Minister of Tourism.
I wish to thank you for giving me this opportunity to make a brief statement on the Zambia Wildlife Amendment Bill number 58 of 2026. Madam Speaker, the amendment seeks to, 1, revise the composition of the Wildlife Management Licensing Committee, and 2, to provide for matters connected or incidental to the foregoing. Madam Speaker, Wildlife conservation and management are vital for the preservation, biodiversity, protecting ecosystems, and sustaining tourism, which is a key contributor for economic growth and livelihoods. Effective conservation measures help safeguard natural heritage for future generations, reduce human-wildlife conflict, support climate resilience, and ensure that wildlife resources continue to provide ecological, social, and economic benefits to communities and the nation at large. In this regard, Madam Speaker, it is vital that relevant stakeholders are brought on board to ensure good governance, enhance efficiency, decision-making, and that of accountability. It is against this background that key players from law enforcement agencies, the private sector, such as institutions focused on wildlife protection and conservation and non-government organizations, as well as civil society organizations, among others, are relevant to be part of this governing council. Madam Speaker, in view of the aforesaid, I am agreeable with the committee's recommendation on the proposed amendments. This progressive reform would enhance the management, conservation, and preservation of wildlife resources. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The chairperson of the Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism, Honorable Member for Seshek. Seshek, yes, is there.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the bill seeks to revise the composition of the Wildlife Management Licensing Committee and provide for the matters concerned therewith. The committee notes that the stakeholders generally supported the bill, particularly its intention to strengthen governance, enhance oversight, and promote accountability in the licensing process. However, Madam Speaker, the committee identified critical areas that require refinement. Madam, with regard to the expansion of the licensing committee to include the Office of the President, the Attorney General, and the Anti-Corruption Commission, while progressive, this provision may introduce undue executive influence to the committee. Therefore, the committee recommends that the roles of institutional representatives be clearly defined to preserve the licensing committee's technical and regulatory integrity. Madam Speaker, the committee notes with the inclusion of the Anti-Corruption Commission as a positive step towards enhancing accountability. However, the committee is of the view that its role should be carefully structured to avoid conflict within its primary mandate. And in this regard, the committee recommends that the Commission serve as an ex officio member or participate by invitation. Madam Speaker, another issue of concern is the removal of the key line ministries that are essential to the multi-sectoral management of wildlife resources. The committee recommends their reinstatement to ensure a coordinated policy implementation and effective governance. Madam Speaker, the committee further observes that the absence of a clear definition of the private sector creates an ambiguity. The committee recommends that the bill be amended to provide clarity on this matter to ensure transparency and consistency in appointments. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to thank you and all the stakeholders for the support rendered to the committee throughout its deliberations. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Any further debates? I see none. The Honorable Minister of Tourism, wind up debate.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just wish to thank the chairperson for the Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism, Honorable Romeo Kangombe, and his entire committee for having taken time to review our document. And indeed, as I had mentioned earlier, we are very much agreeable with the recommendations that have been brought forward by the committee, and we're looking forward to working together as we forge into the next chapter of this government, Madam Speaker. I submit.
Thank you very much. I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Zambia Wildlife Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The Sports Council of Zambia Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 52 of 2026, second reading.
The Honorable Acting Minister of Youth, Sport and Arts.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read the second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honorable Minister of Youth, Sport and Acting Minister of Youth, Sport and Arts.
Madam Speaker, I rise to present a policy statement on the National Sports Council of Zambia Amendment Bill number 52 of 2026. The bill seeks to enact a comprehensive framework for the governance, development, and regulation of sport in Zambia, ensuring equitable access, high performance, integrity, and sustainable growth across all sports disciplines, while focusing on modernizing the governance of the Zambian sport. Madam Speaker, the objectives of this bill are A, to revise the composition of the Executive Board of the Sports Council of Zambia, and B, to provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing. Madam Speaker, in order to foster efficiency, transparency, and accountability in the sports fraternity, the amendment proposes that the Executive Board of the National Sports Council of Zambia be reduced from the current 13 to 9. Further, Madam Speaker, the amendment is intended to ensure a more streamlined and professional leadership structure that aligns with international best practices in sport. Madam Speaker, just like the National Youth Development Council of Zambia Act and the National Arts Council of Zambia Act, the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Arts was granted approval in principle to repeal and replace the Sports Council of Zambia Act in its entirety. This was done in order to respond to the emerging trends in the sports fraternity. To this effect, the review process of the Sports Council of Zambia Act has commenced. This is being undertaken in collaboration with the Zambia Law Development Commission. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, allow me to highlight that the National Sports Council of Zambia Amendment Bill number 52 of 2026 is a transformative framework that seeks to elevate sport as a strategic pillar of national development by establishing clear governance, safeguarding integrity, and ensuring prudent use of resources. I therefore urge this August House to consider and support the amendment to enable timely enactment and successful implementation. Finally, Madam Speaker, let me thank the chairperson and the members of the Parliamentary Committee on Cabinet Affairs for their detailed insight in scrutinizing the amendment bill and also for their support in the entire process. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The acting chairperson of the Committee on Cabinet Affairs, the Honorable Member for Mwandi.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Orders 206M and 207J of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2024, your committee was assigned to consider the Sports Council of Zambia Amendment Bill number 52 of 2026. Madam Speaker, the bill before the House seeks to amend the Sports Council of Zambia Act, chapter number 142 of the laws of Zambia. Its principal objective is to enhance the institutional and administrative framework of the Council by revising the composition of its executive board and strengthening corporate governance. Madam Speaker, while the committee supports these reforms, it has identified several areas that require refinement to ensure operational efficiency and gender equity. Madam Speaker, the committee observes that the bill does not provide a specific time frame for the appointment of the new board following the departure of the incumbent members. In order to avert a leadership vacuum, the committee recommends that the appointment of a new board be mandated within 30 days and that a transitional provision be included to allow the current board to continue in office until successors are duly appointed. Madam Speaker, with respect to the board composition, the committee notes that the Ministry of Defense has a more direct interface with matters relating to sports development and facility maintenance than the Ministry of Health. In this regard, the committee recommends the substitution of the Ministry of Health representative with a representative from the Ministry of Defense. Madam Speaker, the committee further notes that the absence of provisions on mandatory gender representation. It therefore strongly recommends that the Act be amended to provide for a minimum of 30% female representation on the board, and that a seat be specifically reserved for an organization dealing with women in sport. Madam Speaker, the bill represents an important step forward forward strengthening the governance of sports sector. However, further refinement is necessary to ensure a truly professional, inclusive, effective framework, participatory in regulation to broad autonomy, appointment, timelines, and gender representation. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The Honorable Member Fonkana.
Madam Speaker, I don't think my
I'm sure that is cousinship now between a Rose and a baby. You may proceed.
Madam Speaker, again, I am back because the proposed amendment relates to a board. And like we've said before, like I've personally said before, I have always wondered what is motivating the decision to change the compositions of the board. And I am alive to the fact that these decisions are being guided by a cabinet circular that sought to revise the composition so as in context to attain efficiency. Again, I'll bring it back to this House. Efficiency versus effectiveness is something that for me I've failed to grasp, around this issue, because it's always important to weigh between what gives you better results, efficiency and how effective the board is going to be when you trim, its composition. Secondly, again, this bill does not provide a criterion that helps to to arrive at what is contained in the the cabinet circular that insists on the inclusion of gender. Because all the institutions that are going to be represented to sit on the board, there's not a specific criteria that has been agreed that will guarantee that gender will be included. So again, you will agree with me, Madam Speaker, that the set objectives of this bill cannot actually materialize if there's absence of that criteria that is specified in the bill. Madam Speaker, I cannot overemphasize the importance of the board that governs sports in Zambia. Madam Speaker, in general, when we speak to sports, we are speaking to a very important facet of our governance system. Clearly, as highlighted by the Minister, sports is a very integral pillar of national development. The activities around sport involves activities to do with young people. And oftentimes in Zambia, we tend to confuse sports to just mean football. The different facets of sport can help you attain meaningful development if carefully considered and pushed in that direction, Madam Speaker. The challenges we are facing today vis-a-vis the issues of unemployment. Madam Speaker, sport alone can help you mitigate the challenge of unemployment. What sport means or needs, or what young people who are talented simply needs, is just management. And when we have a board that does not represent the different sporting discipline, we are doing a disservice to ourselves and to the young people. Honorable Minister who is moving this, proposed amendment, for me, as opposed to just wanting to achieve efficiency, this particular board, the National Sports Council of Zambia, should have actually had more members sitting on the board so as to represent the different or the various sporting disciplines. All these sporting disciplines we have, Honorable Minister, can give you value, can help you attain meaningful development. As opposed to reducing that board, I want to insist, Honorable Minister, I think that it is not too late. If you speak to sportsmen, they will tell you, because in fact, Honorable Minister, you need to know, there is a serious outcry from sportsmen over the lack of consultation when, okay, sportsmen and women, thank you so much for the correction. I was saying, Honorable Minister, that as we speak today, there is a serious outcry from the different sporting disciplines, from sportsmen and women who have complained around the issue of lack of inclusion and consultation when this bill, or rather this amendment, was being promulgated or proposed. So I want to still put to you that it is not too late to make that consideration, that number one, it's not enough to push the agenda of efficiency when it is not going to give you, if it's not going to be effective at helping you realize the potential that lies around, sports in general. Madam Speaker, in the recent past, we have had serious problems in harnessing the potential around talent in Zambia. Honorable Minister, you know that Zambia used to perhaps compete favorably in various sporting disciplines. When you look at the performance of the different sporting disciplines in Zambia, we have really been performing very badly, starting with the famous sport called, football. Our performance speaks volume of the importance we have attached to sports in general in Zambia. And it starts with this board, because the board is a critical, organ that makes decision in terms of policy and the direction of sport in general. And so when you attempt to reduce its size because you want to meet the demand of a particular secular, that secular could speak to other boards, but sports, just like the National Sports Council, I think should be handled in a different light. Madam Speaker, I just thought I could put forward those observations and appeal to the Minister that it perhaps may not be too late for us to make those considerations and do what is best. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. With that, I see no other debate indication. So the Honorable Acting Minister of Youth, Sport and Arts wind up debate.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and let me thank the Kana Member of Parliament for that debate. But just to put things correctly, number one, there was wide consultation, no question about it, as reported by the committee themselves. Two, it's I'm very excited to hear Honorable Mpundu debate like this, where he wants gender equality guaranteed. Indeed, this is what we were speaking about in Bill 7. Very, very glad that finally is supporting Bill 7 and we should be able to move in the same direction. Thirdly, it's not about quantity. I think we believe in quality, so reduction from 13 to 9 will ensure that there's quality there. We'll choose the right people to represent the sports fraternity on this board. Madam Speaker, let me thank the committee most sincerely, as well as the Honorable Mpundu, for that quality debate. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you very much. I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary, say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Sports Council of Zambia Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 52 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The Zambia Educational Publishing House Foundation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 54 of 2026. Second reading.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honorable Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, I wish to express my sincere gratitude for the opportunity accorded to me to present the policy statement before the Honorable House on the second reading of the Zambia Educational Publishing House Foundation Amendment Bill 2026. Madam Speaker, the Zambia Educational Publishing House, ZEF in short, is a statutory body established under Cap 237 of the laws of Zambia, with historical roots dating back to 1966 under the Kenneth Kaunda Foundation. Its mandate is the publishing, printing, and distribution of teaching and learning materials and related educational resources for both public and private users across the country. Madam Speaker, in this regard, the production and distribution of quality educational materials remain a critical pillar in the delivery of an effective and equitable education system. ZEF therefore plays a central role in supporting national education objectives, making it imperative that it operates under a modern, efficient, and responsible governance framework aligned to evolving sector demands. The objects of the bill are to A, revise the composition of the Executive Committee of the Zambia Educational Publishing House, and B, provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing. Accordingly, the bill seeks to amend Section 11 of the Principal Act in order to revise the composition of the Executive Committee, thereby strengthening the governance architecture of the institution through a necessary and timely reform. Honorable Madam Speaker, the current legal framework enacted in 1974 and last amended in 1998 has become outdated and is no longer fully aligned with the contemporary standards of corporate governance, accountability, and institutional independence applicable to public institutions. Under the existing arrangement, the Executive Committee comprises the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education as chairperson, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance as vice chairperson, and 4 private sector members. This highly centralized structure lacks sufficient diversity and specialized expertise for an institution managing public resources in a complex environment with limited competences in financial management, governance, fiduciary oversight, and accountability. It also concentrates authority within a narrow group, blurring the separation between oversight and operations, thereby weakening independence, transparency, and effectiveness. It is against this background that the proposed amendment has become both necessary and urgent. Turning to the key provisions, Madam Speaker, the bill provides for a more independent, professionally constituted board with clearly defined oversight functions separate from management, thereby eliminating duplication of roles, strengthening checks and balances, and promoting objective decision-making. It further broadens representation to include professional bodies and the private sector, thereby enhancing technical expertise, strategic direction, financial management, and operational efficiency, while reducing direct political involvement in line with the best practices for state-owned enterprises and strengthening accountability. The amendment also is informed by Cabinet Office Circular Minute number 101/39/1 of 2025, which emphasizes private sector participation, gender balance, broad national representation, and the need for lean and effective boards. The proposed board's composition responds directly to the policy directives by promoting diversity, professionalism, and inclusivity while maintaining an efficient governance structure. Clause 2 accordingly provides for the reconstitution of the Executive Committee into a modern board comprising representatives from the Ministries of Education and Finance, the Attorney General, professional bodies such as Zambia Institute of Chartered Accountants and the Zambia Institute of Human Resource Management, as well as the private sector. This balanced composition is intended to enhance independence, strengthen oversight, and broaden technical and professional expertise. The reform will significantly improve corporate governance, accountability, transparency, and professional capacity while aligning the institution with ongoing public sector reforms. It will also enhance stakeholder responsiveness, promote collaboration in the development and distribution of educational materials, and strengthen institutional efficiency, evidence-based decision-making, and the long-term sustainability of the Zambia Educational Publishing House. In addition, the ministry proposes that Section 4 of the Principal Act be reviewed to ensure alignment with the reforms under Section 11, thereby enhancing coherence in the governance framework and strengthening the separation between policy direction and operational management. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, the Zambia Education Publishing House Foundation Bill 2026 represents a critical step in modernizing the governance framework of a key national institution. It addresses structural weaknesses, enhances accountability, and positions the publishing house to operate more efficiently, transparently, and effectively in fulfilling its mandate. I therefore recommend the Zambia Education Publishing House Foundation Amendment Bill 2026 to this Honorable House and respectively urge it to be read a second time. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The acting chairperson of the Committee on Cabinet Affairs, the Honorable Member for Mwandi.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Orders 206M and 207J of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024, your committee was mandated to consider the Zambia Educational Publishing House Foundation Amendment Bill number 54 of 2026. The bill seeks to amend the Zambia Educational Publishing House Act number 158 of the laws of Zambia in order to broaden governance structure by incorporating technical expertise from key ministries and professional bodies. This is a welcome and necessary step towards strengthening the institution. However, while your committee supports the intent of the bill, it has identified several critical areas that require refinement to ensure legal clarity and effective governance. Madam Speaker, the committee notes an inconsistency in the short title of the bill and the title of the Principal Act. The Principal Act is referred to as the Zambia Educational Publishing House, while the bill introduces the term foundation. This creates unnecessary legal ambiguity. The committee therefore strongly recommends that the short title be aligned with the Principal Act to avoid confusion. Madam Speaker, the committee further observes that while Section 11 is being revised to improve the board composition, Section number 4 of the Principal Act has been left untouched. This creates a risk of overlapping roles and unclear governance lines. The committee therefore recommends that Section 4 be harmonized with proposed amendments to ensure a clear distinction between police oversight and day-to-day management. Madam Speaker, on the composition of the board, the committee is of the view that the inclusion of a registered teacher, while well intended, does not adequately address the technical demands of the publishing industry. The committee therefore recommends that this position be replaced with a representative from a private publishing house to bring industry-specific expertise. Madam Speaker, in addition, for the purposes of efficiency and coordination, the committee recommends that the managing director be expressly designated as an ex-officio member of the board. Your committee fully supports the proposal to remove the minister as the chairperson of the board. This is a progressive measure that will strengthen institutional independence and promote professional governance. However, it is imperative that appointments from the private sector and civil society are based strictly on merit and relevant technical expertise. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, your committee supports the bill subject to the recommendations I have outlined. These refinements are necessary to ensure that the institution is governed in a manner that is transparent, coherent, and fit for purpose in a modern educational and publishing environment. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate? I see none. The Honorable Minister for Education winding up debate.
Madam Speaker, I thank the House for the support.
I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Zambia Educational Publishing House Foundation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 54 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The Zambia Institute for Tourism and Hospitality Studies Amendment Bill, National Assembly of Zambia Bill number 55 of 2026, second reading.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, I wish to thank you for giving me the opportunity to make a brief statement on the Zambia Institute for Tourism and Hospitality Studies Amendment Bill number 55 of 2026. Madam Speaker, the amendment seeks to A, revise the composition of the Council of the Zambia Institute for Tourism and Hospitality Studies, and in B, to provide for matters connected and incidental to the foregoing. Madam Speaker, tourism education is important in the nation in that it provides for development of human resource in the tourism sector through academic and professional development, skills training, research, and consultancy. In this regard, it is vital that relevant stakeholders are brought on board to ensure good governance, enhance efficiency, decision-making, and that of accountability. It is against this background that key players from the private sector, such as institutions focused on conservation, non-government organizations, as well as public higher education institutions, among others, are relevant to be on the Governing Council. Madam Speaker, in view of the aforesaid, I am agreeable with the committee's recommendations on the proposed amendments. This progressive reform will enhance governance of tourism and hospitality education. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Any further debate? The chairperson of the Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism, the Honorable Member for Sesheke.
Madam Speaker, the committee notes the stakeholders generally supported the bill, particularly its intention to enhance professionalism and incorporate industrial expertise in the governance of the institution. The committee is equally in support of the bill. However, some stakeholders raised concerns and a few areas that require refinement, on which the committee makes the following observations and recommendations. Firstly, the committee is concerned that the reduction in academic representation may weaken the link between the institute and the broader higher education framework. The committee, therefore, recommends that the adequate academic presentation be maintained to support accreditation processes and curriculum development. Secondly, Madam Speaker, the committee notes that the inclusion and specific mention of a representative from a family legacy missions in Zambia in the Council is inconsistent with the standard legislative practice. The committee recommends that representation be based on defined categories rather than specific organizations to ensure flexibility, fairness, and transparency. Lastly, Madam Speaker, the removal of student representation from the Council undermines the participatory governance. In this regard, the committee recommends the introduction of structured mechanism to ensure that students' voices are heard in matters affecting their welfare and academic progression. Madam Speaker, the committee is of the view that with these refinements, the bill will significantly strengthen governance, improve institutional accountability, and enhance the quality of training within the tourism and hospitality sector. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to thank you and all the stakeholders for the support rendered to the committee throughout its deliberations. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debates? There being none, the Honorable Minister of Tourism wind up debate.
Madam Speaker, yet again, I just want to thank the Chair for the Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism for the exceptional work that was put in reviewing our bill, and indeed the House in general. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you very much, all the honorable members. I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Zambia Institute for Tourism and Hospitality Studies Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 55 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2026, second reading.
The Honorable Acting Minister of, the Honorable Minister of Justice.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill now be read for the second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honorable Minister of Justice.
Madam Speaker, the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Amendment Bill number... Is that the one? Ziale? Okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Amendment Bill number 13 of 2026 seeks to amend the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Act Cap 49 of the laws of Zambia in order to ensure that the Council of the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education operates with efficiency and accountability, hereby building public trust, prioritizing public interest, enhancing service delivery, and ensuring economic and social transformation. Madam Speaker, and indeed to the public, currently the private sector participation in governance of public institutions has not been adequate. This has hindered the effectiveness of the operations and the governance of public bodies. Madam Speaker, and indeed to the House, the inclusion of the private sector representation on the board and the committees of government institutions is aligned with the objectives and the principles of the National Cooperation Governance Code, which provides guidance on the optimization of the composition and functions of the boards and committees, including the need for an appropriate balance of independent and non-independent members, diversity in gender, age, and inclusion of persons living with disabilities, as well as the importance of a mixture of skills, experience, and sector specifications. Madam Speaker, and indeed to the House, private sector participation contributes to the good corporate governance by, among others, 1, enhancing board effectiveness and expertise, 2, strengthening accountability, promoting innovation and resource mobilization, and 3, strengthening compliancy and promoting inclusivity and stakeholder representation. Madam Speaker, and indeed to the House, therefore, there is need to amend the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Act, Cap 49, so as to revise the composition of the Council of the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education to align with current policy directives, strengthening the governance of the Council and fostering public trust and delivering better service through increased private sector participation. Madam Speaker, this bill is very progressive because once enacted, the Council of the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education will operate effectively, accountability will be enhanced, as well as result into high participation of the private sector, civil society, organizations, and other non-state actors. Madam Speaker, and indeed to the House, I therefore urge this House to fully support the proposed amendment of the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education, Cap 49. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The acting chairperson of the Committee on Cabinet Affairs, the Honorable Member for Mwandi.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Orders 206M and 207J of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024, your committee was tasked to consider the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Amendment Bill number 56 of 2026. Madam Speaker, the bill seeks to amend the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Act, Chapter number 160 of the laws of Zambia, so as to restructure the Council to incorporate a broader array of stakeholders, including representatives from both public and private higher education institutions. Madam Speaker, the bill seeks to harmonize the Institute's financial and administrative operations with contemporary institution standards. It proposes that the Emoluments Commission, on the recommendation of the Minister of the Council, should determine the salaries, benefits, and allowances for the leadership and staff. This ensures fiscal transparency and alignment with national standards. Madam Speaker, while the committee commends these efforts to modernize the law, it has identified several provisions that require refinement to ensure stakeholders' balance and legal clarity. Madam Speaker, the committee observed that the revised composition of the Council under Clause 3 significantly reduces diversity. By removing senior lecturers and reducing the number of legal practitioners from 2 to 1, the bill weakens the vital link between legal educational policy and the practical realities of the practicing bar. The committee therefore recommends a more measured approach that preserves a wider range of academic and professional expertise. Madam Speaker, while the fiscal uniformity is essential, the committee urges the executive to ensure that the involvement of the Emoluments Commission does not undermine the operational independence of the institute. The Council's authority to determine other terms and conditions of service must be adequately safeguarded. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, the committee supports the bill. It is hoped that the recommendations will be carefully considered to help establish a robust, transparent, and up-to-date governance framework for legal education in Zambia. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? I see none. The Honorable Minister of Justice, winding up debate.
Madam Speaker, I think the chairperson, the Honourable Member of Parliament, Honourable Sefulo of Mwandi, has ably highlighted the recommendation to the executive, and we do take note of them. All to say, having seen that no one has debated, it clearly shows that the House is in full support. Madam Speaker, I beg to move. Or I submit, I should say. Thank you.
Thank you. I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The Zambia Revenue Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2026. Second reading.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Madam, I have the honor of presenting the Zambia Revenue Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2026 for ratification. The objects of the bill are: 1, to revise the composition of the governing board of the Zambia Revenue Authority, and 2, provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing. Madam Speaker, this bill presents a targeted and strategic reform to streamline the governance structure of the Zambia Revenue Authority by 1, revising the composition of the governing board to require introduction of 2 persons from the private sector. 2, provide for new disqualification criteria for board members. 3, provide for the Emoluments Commission to determine emoluments of the employees of the authority. And 4, reduction of the quorum of the board meetings to 5 from 7. Madam Speaker, the strengthening governance structures of the authority is a key priority, but we note the importance of standardizing remuneration frameworks across the public sector. In the proposed amendments in the Zambia Revenue Authority Amendment Bill, number 57 of 2026, are progressive and must be supported. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you. Any further debate? The chairperson of the Committee on National Economy, Trade and Labour Matters, the Honourable Member for Mwandi.
Madam Speaker, the committee is in support of the bill. However, with regard to the emoluments of employees of the Zambia Revenue Authority provided under Clause 3 of the bill, the committee observed that while the bill seeks to promote consistency in remuneration across public institutions, it raises concern regarding the operational autonomy of the authority. Madam Speaker, the committee is of the strong view that, as a specified institution that competes for highly skilled professionals, both within the country and across national borders, ZRA requires flexibility in designing competitive remuneration structures, as centralizing this function may result in delays in recruitment and potential challenges in attracting and retaining the most competent workforce. Madam Speaker, in this regard, the committee recommends that clause number 3 be revised to limit the role of the Emoluments Commission to that of providing oversight or setting broad guidelines, while allowing the governing board to retain its primary responsibility of determining staff emoluments of the employees. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to thank you and all the stakeholders for the support rendered to the committee throughout its deliberations. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The Honourable Member for Nkana.
Madam Speaker, yet again, government through the Ministry of Finance is proposing to adjust the composition of the board. Not just any board, a very important board that oversees, management of resources for the state. Just for guiding us, Madam Speaker, boards are essential for organizations in that they act as fiduciaries in representing stakeholders, and stakeholders includes owners and shareholders. When we discuss the owners and shareholders of the ZRA board, maybe the question would be, who owns ZRA? ZRA is owned by the citizens of this country. And so the board of ZRA represents the interest of the citizens of this country. So the decisions that are made by this very important board must not be contrary to the aspirations of the citizens of this country. Madam Speaker, ZRA is tasked with collecting revenues, and revenues come from different sources, ranging from taxes that are charged on those who are importing goods, those who are exporting, taxes that are charged for those who are working and they are getting paid, namely the pay-as-you-earn, companies that are doing business, taxes like pay-as-you-earn, withholding tax, corporate tax, and so many others. Madam Speaker, the decision of the ZRA board has far-reaching consequences to the well-being of citizens of this country. As an example, Madam Speaker, you wish to know, citizens, particularly those who are in the working classes, have been complaining for so many years of how government has continued to milk them through taxes such as the pay-as-you-earn. Now, beyond that, Madam Speaker, we know that government does not have the ability to employ all the employable citizens. However, government has got a responsibility to create an environment where businesses can be established and thrive, so that those businesses can then take care of this aspect of employment of the citizens who are employable. Now, the business environment is heavily affected by the decisions that are made by the ZRA board. As an example, Madam Speaker, we have seen how government has been magnanimous to offer incentives, tax incentive in that regard, to our companies, foreign companies. We have debated this issue for so many years, how government is very quick to offer hefty incentives as far as giving tax holidays 5 years and beyond to companies that are owned by foreign nationals. The locals have been complaining, have been crying to government, why don't we look our way? Local companies have suffered in the recent past because of some occurrences, as an example, Madam Speaker. We had COVID that hit our companies so hard. We now had drought that hit our companies so hard. We had the challenge of electricity that hit our companies so hard. These occurrences, Madam Speaker, have made companies fold. And a responsible government would ensure that we come to the aid of these companies by creating some incentives. These incentives can be created through the board of ZRA. As an example today, Madam Speaker, you wish to know, there is insatiable appetite by ZRA to continue punishing our non-compliant, businesses. Even when the Minister of Finance and the board of ZRA sometimes do understand the challenges in the business environment today. I come from the mining company. Back in the days, Honorable Minister of Finance, when you get an order, you are a supplier, you are a contractor in Mopani, you get an order, it is more or less a blank check, an open check. You can get money anywhere when you get an order from Mopani. Today, Mopani will take 3 to maybe beyond 3 months for you to get paid. But ZRA insists that when you do your returns, you must pay right there and then, Madam Speaker. Now, imagine you supply. There's a component of tax you are supposed to remit to ZRA, right? The company where you did business, the mining company where you did business, has not paid you. But ZRA wants to punish you. And they go to an extent, Madam Speaker, of now revoking your tax clearance upon you not making that remittance. Madam Speaker, a lot of companies have been thrown out of business by this decision by the ZRA board to always insist that when a company is not compliant, fails to pay or remit taxes, their tax clearance are revoked right there and then. Madam Speaker, this document called the tax clearance is extremely important and essential for any business to do business. There's no way a company can conduct business without a tax clearance. So imagine, Madam Speaker, this scenario. I do business with a company, I supply my merchandise or product, they have not paid me, they will pay me maybe after 3 months. But ZRA, upon me making a return, insists I must pay. Where am I going to get the funds? Companies have closed. And I'm here begging on behalf of the citizens of this country. The board of ZRA represents the interests of the citizens. It does not represent the interest of foreigners. Why are we quick as government to be giving incentive to foreigners when our own people are crying out so loud to government, come to our rescue? We have endured so much challenges. Madam Speaker, I am making a passionate appeal I have folded my little companies long ago because of these challenges. I am not the only one. There are so many companies that had employed citizens who have now been thrown into the streets because of this very important or very dangerous decision of punishing your own. There are times, Madam Speaker, when we go through these situations like COVID, drought, and electricity challenges, where government must be magnanimous and say, can we perhaps provide an amnesty? Those who have owed ZRA or government through ZRA, we are going to give you amnesty for the debts you owe ZRA just as a relief so that you can carry on with your business. Madam Speaker, is it too much to ask that government can sometimes say, Vane, you have suffered. Let us aid you, help you by doing away or, forgetting or ignoring these, debts that you owe ZRA. Alas, today, Madam Speaker, just one day of you not remitting your taxes that are due because the companies where you supplied has not paid you, you are gone, your tax clearance is gone, your business is gone. I ask, Madam Speaker, Honorable Minister of Finance, this board whose composition you are changing, whose interests are they serving? Is it the interest of foreigners or the interest of nationals? If it is the interest of the nationals, who ZRA represents, please let this board do the right for the citizens for once. We had so much hope in the UPND, having been people of business from business background. Just this second, Madam Speaker. The people had so much hope that the UPND will create an enabling environment for businesses. Businesses, colleagues, have closed down. Please, I beg you, let's have a human heart for once. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Kanyama.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity that you have given me to add a voice to the debate on ZRA as an organ. Madam Speaker, the board issue my colleague has debated on it. My interest is on the insertion of a section 6A, which reads, the Emolument Commission shall, on the recommendation of the governing board, determine the emoluments of the employees of the authority. Madam Speaker, that is where I want to align my debate. Madam Speaker, as we are making these laws, it's just important that we look at where we're coming from and what had motivated certain issues to happen in a particular organ. Madam Speaker, the question that I would ask myself, what motivated the coming up of this so-called ZRA? Maybe, for lack of time, I think I would define it according to my own understanding. Madam Speaker, ZRA is a merger of two former government departments under Ministry of Finance, namely Customs and Excise and Income Tax departments. What could have motivated the coming up of this? Madam Speaker, sorry to mention that I was there. I was one of those people that participated into this. Madam Speaker, it's this same clause that is being brought in now that motivated the coming up of this institution. It was not meant to be ZRI. It was meant to be an organ that will look at the pride of the officers. We're aligning our argument on the WCO declaration in collaboration with the Arusha Declaration, where it spoke about enumerating these officers, where whatever will be given to them should contribute to the economic environment of that particular country. And learning from that, a team of members from the other, each wing, teamed up to come up with an association that was going to spearhead this. And so it mentioned that a number of my colleagues lost employments because of this. Little did we realize that it was going to be ZRI. We were saying, how do you give us the same salary as those that don't even bring in so much? Madam Speaker, for argument's sake, I used to get 87 kwacha. Now look at how much I was giving there. That, Madam Speaker, was prone for corruption. There's a lot of money that is lying around in these taxpayers, and no one wants to pay tax. So, because of that, we fought, we said, can we have an organ that is going to help us spearhead this? And thank God the government succumbed. The government succumbed. And the unfortunate part was that we were told that, fine, we are very to your pride, then, but what will happen, the consequences that will happen, you bear them. We were told 50% will be sourced from within, income tax and customs, depending on the qualifications, professionalism, and the skill. 50% will be sourced from outside, meaning their 50% will be thrown away, like the way they have been thrown away. So, coming up with something that motivated the coming up of ZRI, and we want to go back to whatever or subjected to the rigid standard of civil service rules. Madam Speaker, we are going back 32 years backwards. Madam Speaker, if we are to succumb to this, of which personally I don't, then it means the cries that were there, revenue performance was down. Expertise was not exhibited. A number of employees that are currently now there who are exhibiting these skills will be chasing them. What are we doing to this institution that is the breadwinner for the country? So, Madam Speaker, for lack of time, I just want to urge this Honorable House that indeed, to go back 37 years ago, I think it won't be a good idea for the nation. Bear in mind that government revenue is where we anchor our developmental projects. So with these few words, remarks, Madam Speaker, I would urge the House not to allow this clause to be in this. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Member for Shwangando.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to make very brief comments on the proposed amendments to the Zambia Revenue Authority Bill. And I'll start just by maybe seeking clarification, because I heard one of the honorable ministers saying that there's been a directive or cabinet circular to the effect that all the boards must be revised and the composition changed. So what I would like to get further clarification, and I think taking advantage of this bill from the Honorable Minister of Finance, is why take such a one-size-fits-all? Was there due diligence to assess all the boards? Because, of course, the challenge we have had, even in most of the committees related to corporate governance issues, in most cases it has been, there is a fair attitude of the appointing authority to constitute boards in many cases, and this has been part of the perpetual audit queries. But what I want to understand is whether this is a one-size-fits-all kind of policy directive. Because if it is, then we might be thinking we are providing a solution when in fact not. So, Honorable Minister of Finance would like to hear whether this affects all the corporate boards. Now, for ZRA, I don't think that focusing on just changing the composition of the board will be the solution to some of the challenges that we have noticed in most of the reports. Take, for instance, the non-compliance levels of these huge corporate institutions in terms of tax obligations, paying tax obligations. And mining sector has been cited. Even in the previous report from the Budget and Planning, we were debating, I think, a week ago, those are issues that were coming eminently, that the huge corporate institutions that are supposed to contribute significantly to the revenue basket are the ones that are found wanting insofar as compliance is concerned. And I think the point the Honorable MP Fonkana was trying to belabor is that it's better to milk a cow, a healthy one, than to go and squeeze the starving one. Because these little cooperatives, these little companies that are squeezed, that are made to comply, are the ones that end up folding up, whilst these huge institutions are let free. Let's take a look at the previous Financial Intelligence Center reports. Again, the huge figures are pointing to these tax non-compliance issues. The money that is externalized by these huge corporate institutions are recorded in the FIC report, are pointing to the same thing. So I don't think that the changing of the board will be a panacea. We should be looking at reforms that will enhance the operation of the Zambia Revenue Authority. Because, Madam Speaker, for this institution to operate, and indeed many other arms of government, we depend on this institution which mobilizes resources for the Honorable Minister to keep all these portfolio functions of government functional. So if there's something going on wrong there, the targets of revenue are not achieved, it means the operations of government are overly affected. So it's important that we focus on the operational challenges, operational deficiencies that are noted in the operations of the Zambia Revenue Authority. I don't think corporate board itself will be the changing the composition will be a panacea. There's an issue that the Honorable Minister, the Honorable Chairperson of the committee raised about the determination of emoluments. Yes, indeed, institutions such as Zambia Revenue Authority are very unique. And indeed, you can, to get people to do their best to mobilize resources for the government expenditure, you need to remunerate them well. You need to look after them well in order for them to lessen the temptation of getting bribes. Because it is possible that they are exposed to collecting revenue. And if they are not looked after well, what can you expect? You just expect them to look after themselves in a wrong way. Now, why I'm saying this is that this is the time we should look at the institution called the Emoluments Commission. Because, Madam Speaker, what has happened is that all these public institutions now are at the mercy of this institution called the Emoluments Commission. A new creature of government. Yes, it's a creature of the Constitution. But isn't it time that we looked at it? What are we achieving by having that institution? I'm saying this because, Madam Speaker, the determination of emoluments is very cardinal for institutions. This doctrine of separation of powers, Madam Speaker, cannot be anything without this issue being resolved. The judiciary, the executive, this legislative arm of government. How do you deal with these matters? So, I think it's a critical time that we looked at the Movement Commission. Are we achieving what it was intended for? And decide, because most of these corporate institutions that are supposed to compete with the private sector, take for instance IDC and the corporates under IDC. Most of the institutions there are competing with the private sector. In order for these institutions to compete with the private sector, the human resource under those institutions must be well remunerated in order for them to compete and generate revenue for the revenue basket. So, Madam Speaker, I know that the Honourable Minister is comfortable, so he might not understand the challenges that is posed by this Movement. So, in as much as it may be a good institution, but let's revise and look. Let's have a relook at how we can have it deal with these matters of movements. ZRA, sometimes when they have made recommendations and they have to wait, I'm saying you have got workers that are dealing with revenue on a daily basis in all the departments, customs, tax. What do you expect? They are waiting for the decision to be made for them to have just the housing allowances adjusted. They help themselves. So, Honourable Speaker, it's my earnest appeal to the Honourable Minister of Finance, and we are here also to see how that institution can be looked at. With this few remarks, Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Minister of Finance and National Planning, winding up debate.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Let me respond to some of the issues that have been raised. First of all, Madam Speaker, I want to say that the object of this bill was clearly stated in my statement. This was to change the composition of the board, to have more people from the private sector, 2 people from the private sector to be part of the board. And this has been a cry for members of the public that these boards must not just be full of government people, they should also introduce private people in the boards. This is precisely what the board is doing, what this change is all about. The very thing that our citizens have been crying for. But as usual, Madam Speaker, you see, people are taking advantage of this now to expand into other areas whose relevance to the key issue is questionable. For example, the Honourable Member from Ghana uses this to sneak in the issues of foreigners getting tax holidays. Madam Speaker, we have been in this parliament now for the last 4 years. All the tax laws that get introduced in this country must be approved by this parliament. I don't remember a single day, Madam Speaker, when the Minister of Finance or anyone else came here and said to the Zambian people through the parliament, if you are an American, for example, and you are in mining, the tax code applicable for you is this one, because you're a foreigner. But if you're a Zambian, the tax code applicable for you is this one. So we deliberately create tax laws that favor Americans, Chinese, Arabs, and we don't do the same for Zambians. Can I, since we are now concluding this, and this has been a song by Honourable Member from Kano, in the last remaining few days, could you please pull those tax laws that this parliament has passed? Come and present them here, and you say to the Zambian people, this is a tax for Chinese, this is a tax for Tanzanians, this is a tax for Russians, this is a tax for Indians, bring those documents here. Because you've been talking like this for ever and ever. So please, bring those things here so that we see, and you prove your case, that this government has been favoring foreigners in taxes. Madam Speaker, the reasons why these things are said, because they know it's not true. The reason why they say these things here is to think that because it's to raise the emotion of the Zambians, to whip up the emotion of the Zambians that their government is treating them unfairly. This is all. So, having seen that previously, they were talking about the exchange rate. It's no longer an issue. They were talking about electricity. It's no longer an issue. They were talking about hunger. It is no longer an issue. So the only way of trying to whip up the emotions of the Zambians is to introduce imaginary allegations. So, Honorable, please bring those documents here tomorrow, where we say this is a tax for Chinese, this is a tax for Arabs, this is a tax for South Africans. If you don't do that, then perhaps keep your peace forever. Yeah? Don't say it again. Keep your peace forever. Madam Speaker, the issue of the Emoluments Commission, we've taken note. But however, Madam Speaker, I want to say that the Emoluments Commission, I'm now addressing Honorable Kampyongo. The Emoluments Commission was a creation of the PF in 2016 Constitution. But they did not implement it. Why did you not implement it? Madam Speaker, my time is run out, so let me just say. Madam Speaker, I want to thank you.
There is no procedure like that, Honorable Member for Shwangandu. The Honorable Member for Nkana, what's the point of order?
Madam Speaker, premised on Standing Order number 71, that everything that graces the August House must be factual. The Honorable Minister of Finance makes an insinuation that all the taxes that have been implemented have passed through this August House. Madam Speaker, you remember between June and December last year, government made a decision to allow foreign mining companies to export copper concentrates for free. That decision did not come here. It was a tax decision that never graced this House. Is it in order, Madam Speaker, to insinuate that when we suggest that foreigners are being treated differently, we are just whipping emotions? When he remembers, he gifted the foreign nationals, foreign mining companies, with a tax holiday, allowed them to export concentrate without paying tax between June and December. Is he in order, Madam Speaker?
So, Honorable Member for Nkana, I'm not competent to answer that question. So I'll ask the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning to answer.
Madam Speaker, these are the things we talk about. The thing that you are quoting came to this House. It was debated here. And those tax, the tax, oh yeah, it was suspended. And Madam Speaker, the export of the concentrates was due to the fact that the smelters here, there was an issue. But more importantly, Madam Speaker, Some of the companies that benefited from that are Zambian companies. There were Zambian companies, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there were Zambian companies that were mining manganese. I would hate to mention the name, but yeah. So this is why I always say, Madam Speaker, it's important to invest time, invest in knowledge, because when you don't invest in knowledge, you end up inciting the public and causing chaos, when in fact the problem is you who is not invested into knowledge. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's make progress, honorable members. Now this is unprocedural. What's the point of order, honorable member for Shwangandu?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate you that today you are making sure that I'm not like you. One time you can compare yourself to me.
You see now, we have given you an opportunity
Madam
to
Speaker.
debate. You are taking us on a roller coaster.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, this colleague was moved from there.
Proceed.
Madam Speaker, the point of order I'm trying to raise on the Honourable Minister of Finance is pursuant to Standing Order 71. Madam Speaker, in my debates, I did indicate that the Emoluments Commission is a creation of the Constitution. And the Constitution of 2016, Madam Speaker, which he was part of, Honourable Minister, was a culmination of submission from citizens of this country who proposed that introduction of the Emoluments Commission. He was here, the Honourable Minister, when that Constitution was passed. Madam Speaker, he has made me to respond the way I responded when he posed this question to me in a very special committee we belong to, before this Emoluments Commission was operationalized. And I forewarned, Madam Speaker, that the only reason why it was not operationalized through a subsidiary registration was because there was no consensus between the three arms of government, being the legislature, this institution, and the executive. I mentioned, and that's how it remained unoperationalized in the Constitution. Was it therefore in order to insinuate that the Emoluments Commission was a creation of PF, when it's actually his government that passed the registration here, and then enabling legislation was passed his government here 3 years ago to operationalize that thing which is now people looking like a monster. Yourselves. Was in order, Madam Speaker, to accuse us, innocent who are already out here, as they are joining us in a few days. I think you're serious, really.
Thank you very much, honorable member for Shwangandu. The Emoluments Commission is established under Article 232 of the Act Number 2 of 2016 that was signed. So the creation of that so-called monster, according to you, was done in 2016. So the honorable minister is in order, because when you read the article, it says there is established the Emoluments Commission. 2, the Emoluments Commission shall determine, on the recommendation of the relevant authority or commission, the emoluments of public officers, chiefs, and members of the House of Chiefs as provided in this Constitution or as prescribed. So, when we were talking about amending the Constitution, these are some of the things that you would have moved. For 5 years, you were with the so-called monster, but you, honorable members, you did nothing about it. So it's there to stay. Let's make progress.
I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Zambia Revenue Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The Tourism and Hospitality Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 58 of 2026, second reading.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honorable Minister of Tourism.
Madam Speaker, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to make a brief statement on the Tourism and Hospitality Amendment Bill, number 58 of 2026. The Amendment 6.2.1 revised the composition of the board of the Zambia Tourism Agency. 2, revise the composition of the Hotel Managers Registration Council. 3, provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing. Madam Speaker, marketing and promotions are critical to the growth of the tourism sector as they increase destination visibility, attract both domestic and international visitors, and enhance the country's competitiveness in the global tourism market. Regulation of the tourism sector is essential for ensuring quality standards, protecting tourists and tourism resources, and promoting sustainable development. In this regard, Madam Speaker, it is vital that relevant stakeholders are brought on board to ensure good governance, enhance efficiency, decision-making, and accountability. It is against this background that key players from the private sector, such as institutions focused on marketing and non-governmental organizations, as well as civil society organizations, among others, are relevant to be on the Registration Council and the ZTA board. Madam Speaker, in view of the aforesaid, I am agreeable with the committee's recommendation on the proposed amendments. This progressive reform will enhance governance of the agency charged with the responsibility of marketing and promoting Zambia's tourism sector. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The chairperson of the Committee on Energy, Water Development and Tourism, the Honorable Member for Sesheke.
Madam Speaker, the committee is in support of the bill. However, some stakeholders raised concerns on which the committee makes the following observations and recommendations. The committee observes with concern that the provision granting the minister powers to remove board members without clearly defined grounds may compromise the independence of the board. The committee therefore recommends that explicit grounds for removal be maintained as provided for in Section 55(5) of the Tourism and Hospitality Act number 13 of 2015 to ensure accountability and protect institutional integrity. Madam Speaker, with regard to the proposed composition of the Hotel Managers Registration Council, the committee is of the considered view that it does not sufficiently capture critical stakeholders, particularly those in training and professional standards. The committee strongly recommends the inclusion of these stakeholders to ensure a well-rounded and competent council. Madam Speaker, the committee further emphasizes the need for clarity in the appointment of civil society and private sector representatives to avoid ambiguity and strengthen stakeholders' participation. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to thank you and all the stakeholders for the support rendered to the committee throughout its deliberations. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? I see none. The Honorable Minister of Tourism, wind up debate.
Madam Speaker, I just want to thank the chairperson of the committee and indeed the whole House for going through our bill. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Order. Order. Baron. Shaft 28. I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Tourism and Hospitality Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 58 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The National Institute of Public Administration Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 60 of 2026, second reading.
Her Honor, the Vice President.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
Thank you. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? Her Honor, the Vice President.
Madam Speaker, I rise to present to this August House a statement on the National Institute of Public Administration Amendment Bill 2026, which seeks to alter the composition of the Governing Council of the National Institute of Public Administration. Madam Speaker, the National Institute of Public Administration was established as a government department in 1963 and subsequently reconstituted as a statutory body under the National Institute of Public Administration Act number 15 of 1998. Madam Speaker, this House will recall that in the early 1990s, the commercialization of the National Institute of Public Administration led to the abandonment of mandatory public service training and certification programs. The consequences of these decisions were far-reaching and deeply damaging. The public service experienced a marked deterioration in the quality of service delivery as officers were deployed and promoted without the requisite foundational training in public administration, ethics, and governance. This decline in public service standards came at a huge cost to the citizens of this country and to the nation at large, as inefficiency, poor service, and weak institutional capacity became entrenched across government ministries, provinces, and public bodies. It is this very legacy that the present government is determined to reverse. Madam Speaker, it is against this background that on 10th July 2023, the government, through a minute from the Secretary to the Cabinet, directed the National Institute of Public Administration to resume mandatory public service training and certification for all categories of public service workers. This directive was further reiterated by Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia, on 31st August 2023, who directed the Institute to ensure that all public service employees and those persons wishing to join the public service are trained. The composition of the board is intended to reorient the Institute into providing public service, capacity building programs primarily, while also undertaking programs for the private sector as the case is currently. Madam Speaker, it is for this reason that the government expects the new Governing Council to, 1, include mandatory public service training and certification and innovative income-generating activities for institutional stability. 2, training and certification programs are focused at enhancing capacity of those in the public sector, including those in the private sector. And 3, develop effective synergies with both the public and private sector institutions, with a few implementing quality internship and apprenticeship programs for students to enable them gain practical experiences and facilitate a smooth transition from school to work life. Madam Speaker, the composition of the board was carefully selected to include Minister of Labour, the Attorney General's Chamber, Public Service Management Division at Cabinet Office, Zambia Institute of Chartered Accountants, Zambia Institute of Human Resources Management, Zambia Institute of Management, trade union movements, and the private sector with experience in business and commercial regulation. With this, we expect the Institute to operate as autonomous and professional training institute while ensuring sustainability. This will ensure improved quality of graduates and the productivity of the public and private sectors. Madam Speaker, I therefore urge all honorable members to support the amendment of this bill. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The acting chairperson of the Committee on Cabinet Affairs, Honorable Member for Mwandi.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Orders 206M and 207J of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024, the Committee on Cabinet Affairs was tasked to consider the National Institute of Public Administration Amendment Bill number 60 of 2026. Madam Speaker, the bill seeks to amend the National Institute of Public Administration Act, chapter number 152 of the laws of Zambia. The primary intent of this amendment is to reinforce the institute's institutional governance by transitioning from a narrow administrative oversight model to a comprehensive multi-sectorial governing council. This reform incorporates professional expertise from the legal, financial, and human resource fields to reflect contemporary regulatory standards. Madam Speaker, the bill proposes to align the determination of council members' allowances with the Emoluments Commission. This change is not merely administrative. It is a legal necessity to ensure full constitutional compliance with Article number 30 of the Constitution of Zambia, thereby enhancing fiscal transparency and accountability. Madam Speaker, while the committee acknowledges that the bill represents a commendable effort to reform the law, it has identified critical areas requiring refinement to ensure institutional credibility and social inclusion. Madam Speaker, the committee observes with concern that the proposed composition of the council omits representation from the University of Zambia and the Copperbelt University. The National Institute of Public Administration is a formally recognized public higher education institution. Therefore, exclusion of these universities removes a vital layer of academic governance and quality assurance. The committee recommends that the bill be amended to return representation from these universities to safeguard the academic legitimacy and the international recognition of institutions' qualifications. Madam Speaker, the committee observes that the bill is silent on the representation of persons with disabilities. Given the institution's mandate to train the national's public service, its governance structure must reflect the principles of social inclusion and equity. The committee recommends that the council be further expanded to include representatives of persons with disabilities to ensure that the Institute's programs remain sensitive to the needs of all citizens. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, the committee supports the National Institute of Public Administration Amendment Bill number 60 of 2026, subject to taking into account the concerns raised in the report. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? I see none. Her Honor, the Vice President, wind up debate.
Madam Speaker, I would like to thank you and thank the Honorable Chairperson for scrutinizing the bill and making the recommendations as they have made. Indeed, we appreciate and know that it's an important institution, and we will do as proposed in the bill. Thank you.
I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it, the ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The National Institute of Public Administration Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 60 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The National Prosecution Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 61 of 2026, second reading.
The Honorable Minister of Justice.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honorable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The National Prosecution Authority Amendment Bill number 61 of 2026 seeks to amend the National Prosecution Authority Act Cap 105 of the laws of Zambia in order to ensure that the board of the National Prosecution Authority operates with efficiency and accountability, thereby building public trust, prioritizing public interest, enhancing service delivery, and ensuring economic and social transformation. Madam Speaker, and indeed to the House, currently private sector participation in governance of public institutions has not been adequate. This has hindered the effective operations and governance of public bodies. Madam Speaker, and indeed to the House, the inclusion of private sector representative on the board and committees of government institutions is aligned with the objective and principles of the National Corporation Governance Code, which provides guidance on the optimization of the composition and functions of the board and committees, including the need for an appropriate balance of independent and non-independent members, diversity in gender as well as in age, and inclusion of persons living with disabilities, as well as the importance of a mix of skills, experience, and sector specifics in expertise. Madam Speaker, and indeed to the House, private sector participation contributes to good governance, and indeed, among other things, it enhances board effectiveness and expertise, strengthening accountability, promoting innovation and resource mobilization, strengthening compliance, and promoting inclusion and stakeholder representation. Madam Speaker, and indeed the House, therefore, there is need to amend the National Prosecution Authority Act, Cap 105, so as to revise the composition of the board of the National Prosecution Authority to align with the current policy direction, strengthening the governance of the board and foster public trust and deliver better services through increased private sector participation. Madam Speaker, this bill is very progressive because once enacted, the board of the National Prosecution Authority will operate with efficiency, accountability as a result of increased participation of the private sector, civil society, organization, and other non-state actors. Madam Speaker, and indeed the House, I therefore urge the House to fully support the proposed amendment to the National Prosecution Authority Cap 105. Madam Speaker, I beg to move.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? The acting chairperson of the Committee on Cabinet Affairs, the Honourable Member for Mwandi.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Orders 206M and 207J of the National Assembly of Zambia Standing Orders 2024, your committee was tasked to consider the National Prosecution Authority Amendment Bill number 61 of 2026. Madam Speaker, the bill seeks to amend the National Prosecution Authority Act, chapter number 105 of the laws of Zambia. The primary objective of this legislative measure is to strengthen the institutional framework of the authority by revising the composition of its governing body. Madam Speaker, while the committee acknowledges the intent to broaden the board's professional diversity, several critical concerns have been raised by stakeholders regarding constitutional autonomy and legal clarity. Madam Speaker, your committee is deeply concerned that the proposed arrangement maintains the director of public prosecutions in an ex-officio capacity, which does not adequately reflect the significance of the office within the board's deliberations. This is not a minor omission. It strikes at the very heart of coherent prosecutorial governance. As the constitutional head of the prosecutions, the DPP provides the critical link between policy oversight and the realities of prosecutorial operations. Madam Speaker, in the absence of the office at the helm, the board risks operating in a vacuum disconnected from the practical demands of the justice system it is meant to support. The committee therefore recommends that the Director of Public Prosecutions be appointed as the chairperson of the board in order to restore the position as previously provided under the National Prosecution Authority Act of 2010, and thereby enhance institutional coordination, credibility, and professional leadership. Madam Speaker, this concern is further reinforced by Article number 187 of the Constitution of Zambia, which expressly guarantees the independence of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Any governance arrangements that exclude this office from strategic oversights creates a real and present risk of indirectly subjecting a constitutional function to external influence. Madam Speaker, as such, an outcome would not only be legally questionable, but would also undermine public confidence in the independence and integrity of the prosecution system. Your committee therefore recommends that the bill be amended to expressly safeguard the constitutional independence of the DPP in line with Article number 187 of the Constitution of Zambia by preventing any governance arrangements that may subject the office to direct or indirect external control. Madam Speaker, your committee further recommends that clear statutory provisions be introduced to delineate the relationship between the board and the office of the DPP, ensuring that oversight functions do not encroach upon prosecutorial discretion. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, the committee observes that introducing private sector representatives without clear safeguards poses a potential risk for conflicts of interest. To mitigate this, Madam Speaker, the committee recommends the inclusion of a strict code of conduct and specific eligibility criteria for these members. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, while your committee supports the bill as a progressive step towards strengthening the authority's governance framework, it strongly urges the executive to give serious and immediate consideration to the recommendations advanced in the report. These recommendations reflect the core of the constitutional compliance and the protection of the independence of the prosecution function. The recommendations also aim at preventing the risk of undermining both legal certainty and public confidence in the justice system. It is therefore imperative that these provisions are refined to ensure that the integrity, autonomy, and effectiveness of our prosecutorial system is fully safeguarded. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Any further debate? The Honourable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to make a very brief comment on the proposed amendments. Again, Madam Speaker, I will re-echo what I stated when I was debating the composition of the board for the Zambia Revenue Authority. I don't know whether there was an analysis really to try and just change the compositions and propose inclusion. Yes, it's important to have private sector in most of these institutions, but I think we need to look at the critical institutions. And in this case, the committee raises very serious concerns regarding this proposal to include people from the private sector, of course, with the background of prosecutorial matters, Now, the suggestion sounds good, but without defining the parameters of the private sector and which private sector, there is a possibility of creating an ambiguity as to from which sector you are going to draw this membership from. There are concerns that have been raised that private sector representation might also generate the conflict of interest, especially if those that will be drawn from the private sector are also active in private legal practice. So you may find that there will be challenges in terms of agendas that are to be pushed in the board of the National Prosecution Authority. Lastly, Madam Speaker, it's a matter that I spoke to the last time that we had some amendments to the National Prosecution Authority legal framework. It's an issue of constitutional and governance challenge. Madam Speaker, I did speak even at that time that it was important that there was realignment in terms of how the board was chaired and the responsibilities of the DPP. Madam Speaker, Article 180, Subart 7 of the Constitution of Zambia, which provides for the Director of Public Prosecutions, state that the DPP shall not be subject to the direction or control of any person or authority in the exercise of prosecutorial functions. Now, if this is the case, why are you then delegating the position of this DPP to ex-officio status of the board? Because this board will certainly be giving, apart from oversight functions to the operations of the DPP, but also could give directives. So it contradicts the spirit of the Article 180, because this is what guarantees the independence and the autonomy of the DPP's office. And so the recommendation of the committee must be taken into account, because we have lamented about this issue before, and it is now coming back. So, Honorable Minister of Justice, there's no need to shy away. If you have to align, this is a constitutional office, and therefore it must be structured as dictated by the Constitution. Madam Speaker, with these few remarks, I submit.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? I see none. The Honorable Minister of Justice, wind up debate.
Madam Speaker, I just want to say that we do take note of the concerns that have been raised by the committee chairperson, and she alluded to them as being several, so we'll have to actually also dig deeper even beyond what we have heard from her, as well as we take note of some of the observations. Our hope and our goal is that clearly there is a delineation between the board as well as the operation of the work of the DPP. With that, I just want to say thank you to all the honorable colleagues for having listened, but also showing that they are indeed in support with their silence. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. We make a decision. I put the question. The question is that the bill be read now, that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary, say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. Let the bill be read a second time.
The National Prosecution Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 61 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The Land Perpetual Succession Bill, National Assembly Bill number 66 of 2026, second reading.
The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. The Honorable Acting Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the bill be now read a second time.
The question is that the bill be now read a second time. Any debate? The Honorable Acting Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
Madam Speaker, I wish to express my sincere gratitude for granting me the honor and privilege to present my statement before this August House during the second reading of the Land Perpetual Succession Bill of 2026. Madam Speaker, the Land Perpetual Succession Bill number 66 of 2026 is legislation that governs perpetual succession in relation to land ownership. It establishes a clear and structured legal framework that enables societies, churches, non-governmental organizations,
communities of persons and other similar entities to register a trust through which they may legally acquire land, hold, manage, and dispose of land. This is particularly important for organizations that operate beyond the lifespan of individual members and require continuity in ownership and administration of property. Madam Speaker, the Land Perpetual Succession Bill number 66 of 26 is significant in safeguarding continuity of property ownership, as it helps prevent disruptions that may arise from changes in membership of leadership within organizations. Madam Speaker, the existing Land Perpetual Succession Act lacked certain safeguards, thereby making it vulnerable to abuse by unscrupulous individuals and entities that may seek to exploit trusts as vehicles for money laundering and terrorism financing activities. This creates a need for a strengthened legal and regulatory framework to close such gaps. In view of the above, Madam Speaker, the bill seeks to modernize and strengthen the legal framework governing land held in perpetuity, particularly with respect to the continued existence, management, and transfer of interests, including benefits, obligations, and responsibilities associated to land held in trust by entities whose existence extends beyond the lifespan of natural persons. This will be achieved through the following objectives. A, provide for the incorporation of a trust for the purpose of perpetual succession to land. B, provide for the appointment, powers, and duties of trustees of a registered trust. C, give effect to the Financial Action Task Force recommendations relating to beneficial ownership, transparency of registered trusts. D, repeal and replace the Land Perpetual Succession Act. And D, provide for matters connected with or incidental to the foregoing. Madam Speaker, the Land Perpetual Succession Bill 66 of 2026, by achieving these objectives, we enhance transparency and accountability by enabling government institutions, law enforcement agencies, financial institutions, and other competent authorities to access accurate information on the beneficial ownership and control of trusts. This will further strengthen regulatory oversight and reduce opportunities for abuse of trust benefits. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to state that the enactment of this bill represents a progressive step towards strengthening land administration in Zambia. It promotes continuity of ownership, enhances investor confidence, improves governance, and ensures that our local legal framework remains responsive to evolving social, economic, and global financial standards. Further, it enhances clarity, legal certainty, and accountability, and effective governance in the administration of such land holdings, while also addressing identified weaknesses in the current legal framework. Madam Speaker, I thank you and God bless.
Amen. Thank you very much. We are supposed to go for break. I'm hoping we can finish this, then before we dissolve into committee, we can go for break. So just bear with me. We complete this bill. Thank you very much. So any further debate? The acting chairperson of the Committee on Cabinet Affairs, the Honorable Member for Mwandi.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Orders 206M and 207J of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2024, the Committee on Cabinet Affairs was tasked to consider the Land Perpetual Succession Bill number 66 of 2026. The bill before the House seeks to repeal and replace the Land Perpetual Succession Act. Its core objective is to reform the legal framework governing the incorporation of trusts by moving away from a rudimentary registration system to a more robust and responsive regulatory regime. Madam Speaker, this reform is both necessary and timely. It seeks to strengthen perpetual succession while introducing inherent safeguards for transparency, accountability, and proper oversight. In doing so, the bill aligns the administration of trusts with contemporary governance standards and addresses long-standing gaps that have allowed for weak regulation and limited scrutiny. Madam Speaker, this bill aims to align our domestic laws with international standards relating to Financial Action Task Force recommendations. By mandating the disclosure of beneficial ownership information, the bill seeks to prevent the misuse of trust structures for illicit financial activities such as money laundering and terrorism financing. Madam Speaker, while the committee applauds a progressive step towards global compliance, it observes several areas where the bill requires refinement to ensure operational clarity and administrative fairness. Madam Speaker, the committee notes with concern that the definition of beneficial ownership in clause number 2 is unduly narrow. It lacks the catch-all concept of control necessary to meet international standards. Furthermore, the 14-day timeline for providing beneficial ownership information does not allow for timely access by competent authorities. The committee therefore recommends expanding this definition and reducing the response time to 24 hours to effectively combat financial crimes. Madam Speaker, the committee further observes that the bill, as currently drafted, is inconsistent with the Pension Scheme Regulation Act in relation to the appointment of trustees and the definition of a settler. Additionally, the bill limits incorporation to trusts intended only for the transfer of land, thereby overlooking pension trusts which must be established before acquiring assets. The committee recommends that the scope of this bill will be widened to accommodate these regulated entities and ensure legal harmony. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, the committee supports the Land Perpetual Succession Bill number 66 of 2026 as it is vital for Zambia's integrity within the global financial system. However, for this law to be truly effective, the executive must address the highlighted gaps concerning ministerial oversight, beneficial ownership timelines, and the protection of pensioners. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further debate? I see none. The Honorable Acting Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, wind up debate.
Madam Speaker, we wish to express appreciation to the submissions by the committee, and we shall make amendments where appropriate.
Thank you. We make the decision. I put the question. The question is that the bill be now read a second time. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary say no. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is resolved in the affirmative. You need to You need to incorporate more people, honorable members. Let the bill be read a second time.
The Land Perpetual Succession Bill, National Assembly Bill number 66 of 2026.
Committee stage to be taken when?
In due course, Madam Speaker.
Committee stage to be taken in due course. Next order.
The Closed Circuit Television Public Protection Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2025, committee stage.
I now consolidate orders 12 to 19, and the House will now resolve into committee. In the meantime, business is suspended for 20 minutes for a health break.
Business has been suspended for a health break. We expect our business to continue after 20 minutes, and when business indeed will continue, we do expect that the House would have resolved into committee of the whole House to consider bills that are on the order paper and expected to be considered at committee stage. And just to mention that the bills that are on today's order paper that were appearing to be considered at second reading stage have since been read a second time, and we expect committee stage of these bills to take place in due course.
Yes, indeed. So the House is now currently on a break, and just now before we go on a break, we take you through the bills that have been considered at second reading stage. We have the Electoral Process Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 44 of 2026, the Zambia Wildlife Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2026, the Sports Council of Zambia Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 52 of 2026.
Other bills that have been considered at second reading stage include the Zambia Educational Publishing House Foundation Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 54 of 2026. We also had the Zambia Institute for Tourism and Hospitality Studies Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 55 of 2026. Another bill that came up for consideration at the second reading stage is the Zambia Institute of Advanced Legal Education Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 56 of 2026.
And we also had the Zambia Revenue Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2026, the Tourism and Hospitality Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 58 of 2026. We also had the National Institute of Public Administration Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 60 of 2026 that have been considered at second reading stage.
And the last two bills that were considered this afternoon at second reading include the National Prosecution Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 61 of 2026, and the Land Perpetual Succession Bill, National Assembly Bill number 66 of 2026.
And the committee stage of these bills is expected to be considered in due course. Just now, we take a break. Do join us on the other side. Keep watching Parliament Television.